It does feel brisk in here. I think it's warm in there. All of a sudden, it's a lot cooler out here than it is in there. It just just.
They moved all the chips to keep you guys awake.
I think that one
was very good. Thank you. Now it's cold in here. Up there.
for me.
We are late.
Give it a moment to settle down. Okay. I'll reconvene this regular session of the Madison Elementary School Board. We had we returned from our executive session, and for anyone who was wondering, that was the Middle School Showcase. And it was great. With that, that brings us up to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Kazi, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I would be honored. Thank you.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That brings us to item 5.1 on our agenda, presentations and recognitions. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, President Holcomb, Vice President Gresham, governing board members, cabinet, and guests. I'm so excited to introduce Miss Anna Andrews to introduce our Shining Star and You Make a Difference Award, one of the most favorite things I get to do every month.
Thank you. The You Make the Difference and Shining Star Awards are presented by the Madison District Classroom Teachers Association and Madison administration to recognize the certified and classified staff who truly demonstrate Madison's vision of inspiring passion for learning and leading in an ever-changing world. Excuse me. And tonight's first You Make the Difference Award recipient is Summer Izat. Summer Izat is a second grade teacher at Madison Simus. Summer is a talented teacher who genuinely loves what she does and inspires others to be better. She welcomes any student into her classroom, no matter the level of need, and strives every day to help them learn. She is a respected and valuable member of the Simus staff. In her classroom, Mrs. Izat is consistently looking for ways to differentiate instruction for all her learners. She teaches her students to use tools they need to learn, including from each other. She uses Kagan strategies in her class daily, improving her students' communication skills as well as keeping them engaged. She works with her team to design lessons that allow students to have a variety of ways to show their knowledge, but also provides the structure and clear expectations they need to be successful. Even with her many years of teaching experience and expertise, Summer is a caring professional who seeks opportunities to grow. She is open to feedback and is eager to implement new ideas to help the students sitting in her classroom each year. She is a change maker, encouraging her team to try new things without fear of failing. This willingness to try has resulted in more co-teaching at the grade level and more successful students. She welcomes experiences to coach and mentor others and often volunteers to host student teachers or visitors in her classroom. Summer is an effective communicator who shares both the positive moments and challenges with the parents of her students in a kind manner. Parents know that she always has her students' best interests at heart and that she cares. Summer continually strives to improve as an educator. She and her team were the first at Simus to embrace and use FastBridge as a tool to help struggling readers. She also volunteered to attend professional development and ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. This requires time outside of the school day to learn ways to engage with students in a more trauma-informed manner. Summer knows that taking the time to learn new things will ultimately impact her students positively and is always willing to take on new challenges. Summer Izat is a wonderful teacher and colleague. She is energetic, engaging with others, and helps lift others up around her. She looks for ways to make school a positive experience, and in doing that, she truly makes a difference in the lives of her students and colleagues every day. Congratulations, Summer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to take a photo op. I can hold this up. Sorry, we have a microphone right behind you if you'd like to say anything.
You don't
have to touch it.
This way.
And you're on. Oh, all right. Well, I would probably say my team is the biggest number one. I have some really awesome teammates that support me all the time, and my our administration is phenomenal. Like, I really couldn't do what I do every day without my teammates that support me, and they're like another piece of my arm. And like, our poor vice principal, when we have some behavior issues, she really, basically she wear running shoes when she has to chase some of our kids and hassle them down, and we notice and we appreciate it. So it's really awesome.
Do you have anyone here with you?
My husband's here with me, and then actually one of my teammates, my partial, she was in the picture also, because I tell you, we do things together. That was great. Thank you.
All right. Our second You Make the Difference Award recipient is Brittany Vermersch. Brittany Vermersch is a language and literature teacher at Madison Meadows. This amazing human teaches a diverse range of students in her advanced classes, as well as the classes that she co-teaches to support special education students. Day after day, she tirelessly works to come up with engaging lessons to get kids excited to read and write, which is no easy feat. If you were to walk into Brittany's class, you'd see her students collaborating with one another, developing their IB skills of communication, open-mindedness, and risk-taking. Brittany's classroom walls are filled with colorful representations of students' exemplary learning. Because she takes pride in the work they do, thereby giving them an intrinsic sense of pride and ownership in their work. Ms. Vermersch genuinely reflects on her teaching practices. She is always looking at data to differentiate teaching styles and modalities for all learning levels, making adjustments and trying new approaches to teaching to create knowledgeable inquirers out of our students. She is a phenomenal classroom teacher, one that students consistently cite as their favorites. Brittany is also a phenomenal teacher leader on campus. She acts as our 5th grade team lead and is a major organizer for our Friendly Pines overnight field trip, an incredible experience that takes a world of patience, major organization, and effective communication. Brittany is also on our school improvement team. She tutors students throughout the week before and after school so they can reach their full potential, and collaborates with teachers to support positive student behavior in classrooms and hallways. Words alone cannot express how lucky we are to have her as a teacher on our campus. Brittany makes a difference every single day at Madison Meadows for both students and staff.
You know, you're still beloved by my son, right? I think he called you mom once.
Hold it up here because it can fall out.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. The microphone works. I have some of my wonderful students here right now, and that's helping me talk in front of all these adults right now. So very stressful, but they're the reason I keep doing it. This is my 10th year at Meadows, and it's my home, away from home, and I just love each and every one of every staff member and students that I have. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, our first Shining Star Award recipient is Jordell Grave. Jordell is a food services cashier who joined Madison Simus 18 months ago. In that short time, she has consistently shown that she is a hard worker dedicated to helping our school, who takes pride in her work, and who brings joy to those around her. She comes to work every day with a great attitude and is someone that we know we can depend on. Jordell is a valuable member of our school community who strives to make Madison Simus a positive place to be. She starts each day off with a smile and carries that positive attitude with her throughout the entire work week. Students are eager to see Miss Jordell when they get to the cafeteria for breakfast and lunch. Jordell greets each student by name and takes the time to connect with them as they move through the food line. When they approach Miss Jordell's register, every student and staff member is treated with respect and shown they are important to her. This year has presented challenges for the Madison Simus cafeteria staff due to frequent absences and unfilled positions. Ms. Jordell has risen to the occasion and is seen as a respected and reliable teammate. She is always available to jump in and help ensure all job responsibilities are met at a high standard. She is able to partner with anyone on her team to make sure the breakfast and lunch meals are served efficiently and with care. If you get a chance to see Ms. Jordell in the Simus cafeteria, you will notice that she never stops moving. She is either serving food, helping students get a yummy sauce to complement their meal, cleaning tables following a meal, or checking on others to see where she can lend a hand. People lighten up when they get to interact with Ms. Jordell. She understands that the mindset you bring to work can make all the difference in the day you and your team have. She serves as an example every day of a community member who strives for excellence. We are so lucky to have Ms. Jordell Grafe as a member of the Madison Simus community. She is truly a shining star.
We're rolling, not that.
You could come on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to say? Would you like to say a few words?
I just want to say thank you to our team because, you know, it's hard, but we always say we're gonna get it done. And thank you for our, you know, like principal and vice principal that always giving us a hand if we need the cashier. It seems like we train everybody now to do the cashier. Thank you, everybody. Yes, thank you. Oh, this is my family. My boys, they used to come here too. So, yeah, thank you, and my husband and my mother.
All right, our second Shining Star Award recipient, one of my personal most favorite human beings on the face of this planet, Mr. Brian Stevens. Brian Stevens is our clutch utility player here at Madison Meadows. On a typical day, you will see him crossing students on Maryland before and after school in addition to monitoring the lunch lines and lunchroom. Brian is frequently pulling students for small group instruction and support across all grade levels. He is assisting with assessments, tutoring before and after school, writing positive office referrals, dressing up for spirit days. He literally does it all and has integrated himself seamlessly into our RAM fam. Brian is a main contributor to the amazing culture and climate at Madison Meadows. He has facilitated classroom calming sessions to support students and teachers, and he hosts a mind-body training called Energy Reset each quarter. The purpose of these sessions are to warm the muscles and joints, quiet the brain waves, allow the breath to deepen involuntarily, and allow everyone to sink into a deep and restorative subconscious state. He states that when we allow ourselves this time in practice, we reconnect to our souls and self-heal. One look at our society and world, and we all know that we need this. He exemplifies the balanced portion of our International Baccalaureate traits, always keeping calm with his demeanor and attitude. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a well-rounded and exceptional human being on our staff at Meadows. He is without a doubt a shining star.
Thank you so much. Great job. Thank you for everything you do. Well, not so much. It used to be my kid's best. Hold it up here because it's
Yes, when I called Madison Meadows in 2021, and when I spoke to Maria, she had told me that the instructional aide position had been filled, but I knew that we would connect again. And an hour later, Chris Merrill called me and said, Brian, things have changed. Would you consider sending us all your information and we'll set up an interview? And I said yes, and here we are. Very glad to be part of this community. Thank you.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, that brings us to the, employee introductions. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, governing board members, cabinet, and guests, I am so excited to introduce Mr. Johnny Brownlee, the next principal for Madison No. 1 Middle School. Can we give him a round of applause? Mr. Brownlee, I'd like to invite you to the podium. I have had the pleasure of working with Mr. Brownlee for over a decade in a neighboring school district. He has over 10 years' experience as an elementary principal, most recently at Whispering Wind Academy, which has a Mandarin immersion program, robust fine arts, and he supports special education and gifted learners. He started his career at Madison Simus. So we are so excited to welcome you home, Mr. Brownlee.
Well, thank you. I guess this is my opportunity. So it's nice to meet all of you, governing board, and Dr. Guerin and cabinet. I'm looking forward to the new journey and coming home to Madison. And I would never have kind of thought it would go full circle, but I'm super excited about the opportunity to be a part of the Madison family again and be at Madison No. 1. So thank you.
Mr. Brownlee, did you bring anyone with you?
I did not bring any people with me, so
Well,
just,
we'll meet them soon. Thank you.
thank you.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
All right, that brings us to the superintendent's report and comes right back to you, Dr. Guerin.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Madison Middle School Little Theater Group and Liz, their leader. That was uplifting and joyful, and it's wonderful to see our middle school students collaborate and support our elementary students in that way. I hope everyone had a restful spring break filled with time with family and friends. I can't believe it's already fourth quarter. It is such a busy time of year, and we have several exciting events coming up. I'd like to remind everyone that you're all invited to the Madison Education Foundation Night at the Museum, Night at the Madison Museum. It's on April 14th at the Madison Center for the Arts. It's free for all families. Masterpieces will come to life. Art lessons will be displayed. There's art and button making, live sketching, and more. Plus, watch Night at the Museum in the theaters. Doors open at 5:30 and the movie starts at 7:15. After a break of 3 years, the Madison Gala is back, hosted by the Madison Education Foundation. The Totally 80s Gala will be held on Saturday, April 29th at the Madison Center for the Arts. This is their largest fundraising event and funds so many of our art programs and so many supports for teachers and students. So please go to their website at madisoneducationfoundation.org to get your tickets. I have already gotten my 80s outfit and I am ready to go, and girls just want to have fun, so I will be at the 80s Gala, so I hope you can join us. Principal Laura Webb, and Principal Hillary O'Brien have both taken positions at the district office. So Ms. Webb's teachers and staff are starting to speak to me again, but I told them we really need her up here at district leading curriculum and instruction. So we're in the middle of a lengthy selection process to choose the next principals of Madison, Simus, and Camelview. This week we select finalists for the site. We have visited the site to speak with staff to see see the characteristics they're interested in, and we had finalist interviews. The community forum for Madison-Simus is on April 5th from 4:30 to 6 at the Madison-Simus Elementary School in the cafeteria, and it will also be live streamed. But we really encourage people to attend an event because you'll be able to ask your own questions at the forum. The Camelview Elementary School forum will be on April 4th from 4:30 to 6, again, at Camelview in the school cafeteria, and that will also be streamed. The communities will receive detailed information this week regarding the process, the links, all you need to know from our communications office. So I hope you're able to participate in that really important process if you belong to that community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to governing board member reports. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I'm going to start off tonight. Just feel like it. I want to welcome everybody back from spring break. I'm past the time where I get to a spring break, but I'm sure hope everybody enjoyed it. I spent a good chunk of this weekend going through and selecting 80s music videos, and then brought me back to the time when MTV first started, and it was quite fun. I'm really excited about the gala coming up. Also, I do want to congratulate the Madison Meadows theater group. That was phenomenal. One of the things that has really struck me about that, it was kids doing theater for kids, and not what better way to light a spark and really get that theater going than that. And it was a phenomenal start of the meeting. Last thing, dealing with the arts, I had the opportunity to deliver a bunch of hats and sticks and pieces for the park, which was now a STEAM school. I finally convinced them to go steampunk. And so they're making steampunk hats and making ugly sticks for performance at their STEAM night. So both Camelview and Park have their STEAM nights coming up. That'll be both of which will be a lot of fun. And with that, I will go to Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also, too, want to thank the students for coming and presenting tonight. It was a lot of fun to watch you. Congratulations to all the award winners this evening. You make such a difference in not only our schools, but in our children's lives, and it's deeply appreciated. I want to give a shout out to some of our MAC leaders. I know I have seen them as my kids are playing sports on the weekends and the evenings. They'll see their MAC leaders show up after hours, and it's so important. I've brought it up to the staff at the school and to the district as well, but I just want to give out a shout out to those folks who make a difference in our kids' lives every day, and then in their off time come to spend time with them as well. So thank you to those folks. I also want to thank Dr. Lomely and the administrative team. There are a lot. It's hiring season. It's contract season. You guys have been doing a lot. Really excited about the principals that are going to be coming next year, and really the innovation we're going to see at our schools and some exciting things happening. So I want to thank you for all of that work that you're doing as well. I also want to thank the Reach Council for the picnic that they hosted this weekend for Reach families out at Granada Park. It was a lot of fun for kids from first grade all the way through 8th grade to get together, have tug of war, a balloon fight, and a few other things, and just have parents get to know each other. So just wanted to mention those things, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Gresham.
So unpredictable. Thank you. I don't have much. Congratulations to our award winners. Thank you for our wonderful performance. Welcome to Mr. Brownlee. Thank you for being here tonight. And yeah, that's all I have. Thanks.
Yeah. Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank our award winners again. It's always fun to be surprised and to see an old friend get an award and get to learn all the amazing differences that he's making at one of our wonderful schools. Also want to thank Dr. Lomely and Ms. Garvey for again starting our budget process off in an extraordinary way. I'm just incredibly impressed with the input we received tonight, and I just feel like this budget process is going to go well because we have great information up front and great input from all stakeholders in the district. And that doesn't happen at every school district, so thank you for that. And then I wanted to just mention, it was thank you to our performers, student performers. Yesterday was World Theater Day. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, really quickly, about the value of theater, especially for youth and for anyone that engages in this art form. It allows those performers to think globally, equitably, inclusively, honorably, boldly, humanely, and honestly, to act, sing, write, compose, direct, design, choreograph, stage manage, produce, collaborate, build, craft, tech, run, promote, raise funds, educate, support, and attend locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally, tell stories of essential truths while speaking truth to power, embrace, champion, and protect all stories on all stages and the people who tell them for the benefit of all who wish to see them. Raise your voices on stage and off. I want to thank the Madison Meadows for offering this program to our kids. I think in middle school, having an opportunity to use your voice in this very unique way is so empowering for students and gives them some insight when they get to high school about those greater opportunities they have to participate in stage productions, not just on the stage, but all the things that happen behind the scenes. Thank you.
Ms. Spear.
Thank you. I echo all of my colleagues. Congratulations to all of our award winners and the good news that we do have going on in Madison. I do, however, want to take this opportunity to share my thoughts on something that is weighing heavily on me and I'm sure all of us in this room. I was elected to this governing board in 2012, the same year as Sandy Hook. According to the K-12 school shooting database, which I encourage everyone to look at, there have been 56 active shooter school shootings since 2012. After each one, politicians offer thoughts and prayers and then promptly get stuck in the weeds. They focus on police response times, or officers in the classroom, or active shooter drills, or the shooter, or arming teachers, or metal detectors, or bulletproof glass. I am not suggesting that we ignore these mitigation strategies or do away with precautions, but come on. It is cowardice or indifference to ignore the one common thread in every school shooting, the guns. This is a uniquely American problem, and the data is clear. If assault rifles make us safer, we would be the safest country in the world, and kids and educators would not be getting shot by AR-15s. The kids are not okay, nor are the parents. I drive my high school freshman son to school every day. He goes to a big public school, and much like a morning work commute, you begin to recognize your fellow travelers. We both noticed a new student a few weeks ago. No backpack, no water bottle, no friends, wearing a very big jacket as opposed to the standard hoodie that almost every student wears. I asked my son if he'd ever seen that student before. He said no, and without skipping a beat, he said, "God, I hope it's not a shooter, but if he is, I'll be okay because my first period is PE and you know I can run fast. I'll jump that back fence into the neighborhood." This is how he geared up for the day. It is the emotional cost of going to school in America. We're failing an entire generation of kids. They do not feel safe from gun violence, and why should they? It is now the #1 killer of children in America, more than cancer or car accidents. This is not true in any other developed nation. I would like to share what Senate Chaplain Rear Admiral Barry Black, retired, said so eloquently to open the U.S. Senate session today. "Lord, when babies die at a church school, it is time for us to move beyond thoughts and prayers. Remind our lawmakers of the words of the British statesman Edmund Burke. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." He went on. "Lord, deliver our senators from the paralysis of analysis that waits for the miraculous. Use them to battle the demonic forces that seek to engulf us." Now, I am not a religious person, but I do agree with his words. I urge every person who professes to care about kids to call your senators, call your state legislators, tell them to find their courage. We encourage our educators to find their why so that they continue to keep teaching. I encourage you to ask your senators to find their why and to support actual change. It does not have to be this way. Quit voting for candidates that throw their hands up like assault weapons being used to kill children is inevitable. If not now, when? Thank you so much. And that's all I have.
Yes. I would like everyone to join me in observing a moment of silence for the victims of this most recent shooting, for their parents, their families, the kids who are also still having to live with this, and everyone who's had to do this for a while. I know we're not supposed to get political, but I think everyone at the diocese shares the same feelings. And so I'd like to everyone take a moment of silence and hope, and however you want to, hope for us to find a way to end this. Thank you. That brings us to our consent agenda. Right? I've got off consent agenda. Does any member of staff or with the board want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Spear, seconded by Ms. Kazi.
Moved by Ms. Thompson.
Oh, I thought you were I was lip reading, I'm sorry. I was lip reading. Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Spear. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. That brings us down to the call to the public. Ms. Humphries, do we have any calls to the public?
We do not have any calls to the public.
Okay. That brings us to board policies. First read. Dr. Guerin.
I first want to recognize Mr. Andre Reyes and congratulate him. We'll more formally congratulate you next time, but I saw you were in the audience, so congratulations. Next principal of Rose Lane. Whoops, lost my page. I'll go up to here. So President Holcomb, members of the governing board, cabinet, and guests, tonight we would like to introduce revision IJOA field trips for your consideration. This would be a first read, and really it is a policy that we are updating the language to match our practice. Because of the shortage in bus drivers, we continually need to use chartered transportation for some of our field trips, and that policy language did not match. So this is a simple update. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Seeing none, that'll brings us to board policies second read. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, at our last meeting, we spoke about policy JFABDA, admission of students in foster care. And if you remember, this adds some requirements that we partner with state agencies to work toward the best interest of students in the foster care system, including where would the best placement of school be, regardless of where they're living at the time. So this board asked some great questions. Last board meeting, we didn't have any recommended changes. So this is the second read, so we are seeking your approval this evening.
Any comments or questions from the board? Nope. I'm glad we're moving forward with this and continuing to serve the foster kids. That's very important. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the policy as presented.
So moved.
I will second.
Okay, I missed who.
Ms. Thompson moved. I second.
Boy, you're right on the ball tonight. Ms. Thompson moved, Ms. Spears seconded. Please vote. That passes unanimously. That brings us up to information items. 10.1 Madison Highland Prep School Report. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, this is an annual presentation and definitely a highlight. I would like to welcome Dr. Carrie Clark, Executive Director of Highland Prep Academies, and Rosanna Rodriguez, Principal of Madison Highland Prep, to present an update on the school to the governing board. Welcome, honored guests.
Are there two of these? Do we, no, just the one, okay, sorry. Come on. Good evening, it's great to be here. Thank you for letting us come in and talk with you tonight. Governing Board President Holcomb, members of the board, Superintendent Guerin, Deputy Superintendent Garvey, and guests, thanks again for all the support that you've shown us over. Did you know that we first struck up this relationship 10 years ago? I was just thinking about that today. 10 years ago, I started officing and planning a school out of the park, one of the park offices. And apologies, Rosie Rodriguez, principal of Madison Highland Prep's with me today. She'll be, never mind. Just, okay. So we've seen this slideshow before. Apologies. We have updated it. The program that we have is a true STEM college preparatory school, also known as STEAM in some circles, and we understand that, and we're similarly situated. We have a lot of AP classes, a lot of Project Lead the Way dual college engineering classes, a lot of dual college math classes, and our goal is for our kids to go to school for as close to free as possible. And so one of the things, I may have mentioned it last year, but it's kind of a recent phenomenon, is we're finding that north of 40% of our students are reporting back to us that they are able to do their four-year degree in 3. And while that's not really our design per se, it is affirming and it is nice, because ultimately, if you think about that, that's going to it's going to save them a lot of money. Let's say maybe $40K in the cost of attending school for a year, and then if they get out in the field a year early, it's going to be at least what, 40, 50, or north of that. That's $100K differential. That's a big difference in debt. So we're just really excited about that. And I can't follow a script to save my life. So this year we have a few less kiddos than in previous years. We wanted to keep it small and manageable because of construction, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't crowding ourselves out. That's our 11th grade ACT. We used to prep for and we still do, for the SAT. We're an SAT-driven school in terms of the College Board curriculum. We're a pre-AP college school in the making. That is to say, we've got chemistry and world history now that have become pre-AP courses. And, previously in previous years when we took the tests, all of our kiddos took the tests. And now it's just our juniors who are taking the tests. So those are the kind of the local scores. So those are local report cards. It was nice. Madison Highland Prep's a school. We have been for a while now, and that's great. That's really due to the hard work of our students and our faculty. And Ms. Rodriguez. That's the nuts and bolts of how we, how the ADE arrived at the calculations for the school's letter grade. That's our proficiency rate. We're back to using student growth percentiles instead of student targeted growth. So we've reverted back, but it's good because we really want to measure growth. Our four-year grad rate is 100%, and it has been for how many years, Ms. Rodriguez? 5, 6. We have 100% four-year we have 100% college readiness index, and those are our English honors, math, science, social studies, and all honors programs. The reason why you see science and social studies as 100% at the 9th grade level is that that's inherently an honors level curriculum. So there's our AP curriculum. We're big believers in AP curriculum changing lives. Some of you have heard me cite the famous 2007 College Board study. I probably maybe could contemporize that, but the stats are pretty overwhelming. The AP curriculum changes lives. It introduces students to rigor that makes sure that they believe in themselves. They can finish high school at greater rates, a 40% greater improvement over their peers in the aggregate, and they have a 25% greater likelihood of graduating with a 4-year degree in 4 years, which didn't matter a few years ago until college and university got expensive. So now it kind of does. We do kind of want them to, if they can, finish in 4. I couldn't read that for a second. Yep. 100% of our students have been accepted to a 4-year college or university, one or more. That's been a constant. Ms. Rodriguez has been a huge part of that. Do you want to talk to him for a minute about what you've been up to with that?
Hello. So, specific to college and university, I mean, we get really hands-on with our seniors. We have senior meetings once a month. We meet with them individually. We track their progress on college applications. We call home. We have parent meetings if we need to. We track their FAFSA completion. And so we are not a school where a senior is going to be off on their own wondering what to do or how to apply for college. We are the opposite. We are completely involved in their lives with respect to the college admissions process. And I think that speaks to why we're so successful with the 4-year college and university acceptance rate.
So one of the things that we did this year to really try to take it up a couple of notches is we wrote it into the charter. Our plan has always been to have as many internship opportunities for our students as we could have. We've worn a lot of hats, so it's been difficult to really get down and get busy on procuring these internship opportunities for them. So this year we hired a director of internships and an internship coordinator, and they've been working hard to secure business and community relationships with our students, and to integrate our new entrepreneurial class into that. And so it's been exciting. We've got some students doing some exciting internships. Where is our girl at the law firm? Do you want to talk about the
So we have one of our juniors has interned at Snow, Carpio, and Weekly, and she's continuing to intern there this next summer. And in addition to the internships, one of the things that we started this year, can you all hear me? Sorry. We are doing workshops with juniors and seniors to teach them those soft skills that adults a lot of times aren't taught when they're in high school, about how to interview, given an elevator speech, how do you present yourself? If you meet someone at the park, how do you sell yourself? Because you never know who you could be speaking with. Last week, our juniors did speed interviewing rounds with each other, and so that's their 3rd workshop. Our seniors are going into their 2nd workshop this week, but that's something new that we added this year to help them when they're going to these interviews for these internship positions, have a higher likely chance of actually securing a position in, or an internship. It's been exciting. Sure. So this just goes over our academic highlights. We have another QuestBridge Scholar this year. If you're familiar with QuestBridge, it's a super competitive scholarship program where if you get matched with the university, 100% of tuition, room and board, textbooks, even travel in some cases to and from that state. And so we have another finalist. This year, our VEX and our robotics teams continue to do well. We're going to be adding
That's not me.
Oh, okay. We're adding some additional AP classes next year that include AP Physics and AP Psychology. And apparently Dr. Clark wants me to keep going, so now you can go to the next slide. There you go.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So this just goes over, again, more highlights, some of the acceptances that we've had this year. We continue to increase every year the number of admission representatives that come and speak to our juniors and our seniors. That really goes back to, I know when I was in high school, I was first generation and I had no idea about what the college admissions process was. I had a plan and then the plan got derailed. And so one of my goals is to make sure that my students are exposed to as many colleges and universities as they can be, so that they know that they have options. Not just ASU, U of A, NAU, GCU, but there are so many more programs, and so hopefully we can continue to just add visits to our campus. And we're continuing to do the parent workshops this year, both on the mental health and college admission side, so that's been really helpful. Especially for parents where it's their first child going into high school and they don't know what to expect. And so we've just been able to teach parents about so many different things, both on the mental health side and the academic side. Okay.
No, that's not what I was just thinking. So, yeah, those are some of the recognitions that our school has had, which is great. Those are some pictures of campus life at the school. And that's the slideshow. Never been able to do a decent slideshow.
Questions or comments from the board? Ms. Spear?
Thank you so much. And I do remember 10 years ago being a bit of a thorn in your side, actually. And it has turned out to be such a fruitful relationship, and I'm thrilled to see the numbers that you have, your enrollment numbers, and I've noticed that you do have a particularly large class that is kind of moving its way through. Has enrollment for the most part been stable? Because that's one of the questions I always have is, who is coming to you? Like, where are the majority of your students coming from? And how are you managing the variable enrollment?
Okay, thank you. And so we have been roughly 60%, 63% free and reduced lunch over the last few years. It's up to 68% now. So there's a little change there, interesting uptick. We're not sure what that means. But we've had a wait list every year. And so we currently are on a wait list. And wait lists at the high school level, at least from what we've experienced, are interesting because they don't stay on them for very long. Once they kind of conclude, whether correctly or incorrectly, that they don't have a spot, they tend to move on. But so you really have to kind of think about who's going to show up, who's not going to show up, how many do we plan for. We like to try to have a 25-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio over the aggregate, so we really have to do this process where they do the intent to enroll, they do the enrollment packet, they do testing to inform course placement, and identify opportunities for honors classes and stuff like that, or whether or not they need free Future Freshman Academy to remediate. And then by the time they've picked their courses, you would think, wow, they're not only ready to start, they know what they're taking, they know what they have first period, second period, so forth, they're ready to go, and then they were just gaming you. Sometimes they're on 5 different school wait lists. It's kind of confounding, but it's been very stable, and the attrition rate of students has been really pretty low, all things considered. There was an uptick in 2020, 2021, but it was pretty minor. Anything you agree, disagree with?
And then the other comment I had is just kudos to you for helping to develop the interpersonal skills of your students and to also guide parents through the FAFSA, which is, a beast unto itself, and just the application process is very complicated, and so I'm thrilled to see that you're really being holistically supportive of your students and also your families. It's unique, and I appreciate it very much, and am impressed.
Thank you.
Ms. Gresham and then Ms. Kazi.
Hi, guys. Thanks for being here. Actually, I have a quick question on behalf of Mr. Holcomb. I'm just curious although you're a STEM school, it says you offer fine arts and humanities. I'm just curious what type of fine arts, their electives, or what you offer.
Do you want to speak to that?
So we have varied levels of art classes, from studio art to art history to just plain old art. We have a strings class, we have band, we have a choir, we have a pep band that continues to grow. We have a performance choir, we have drama, and then we have just different electives like digital media and technology, things like that.
Thank you. And one other question. As you know, we have the Spanish immersion program, and we have a lot of the high schools, will give our students credits or let them start at a higher level. Do you guys do something similar?
And actually, the students that come in, they actually go straight in. Most of them go either into Spanish 2 or AP Spanish.
And just to piggyback off of what Rosanna was saying, we've always been able to meet students where they come in at, whether it be reach or the need to take a future freshman academy. The differences between our students are pretty. It's a huge, wide chasm sometimes. So we really do have to give that specialized treatment to make sure that we're challenging those who, it's funny, we had a student once drop out of school 4 years ago, and he was probably the brightest student in the entire school. And why? Because no one in his life could challenge him enough. And that hurt. But no one could talk him out of it. He was going to take $25 and he was going to travel the world. And because everything was easy to him. He had a 4.75 GPA. He came in taking taking calculus and went up from there. So the only reason I mention this is that we don't just only experience victories. We also have missteps. We also have to look at where we can do better and so forth. And a lot of folks don't understand that kids who really are highly gifted really can be quickly disillusioned and disaffected. And so we really could do, we really focus on trying to make provision for those students as well. And then if you're making provision for students in the bottom quartile and you're taking care of the kiddos who need enrichment, it's easy to ignore the kids in the middle. So what you really have to do with our personalized education plans is you really have to treat each student as their own unique student with their own unique learning profile, their own unique strengths, weaknesses, and targeted interventions. So it really is exhausting, just like my answer. Sorry.
Thank you.
Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is my first year as a parent of a MHP student. It's been a great experience. My exchange student, Dunya, generally had a really good experience. So she's very happy that was the school she was placed at. So I want to say thank you for allowing AFS students to participate at your school. I hope you continue to do that because I think it benefits not only your student body, but also benefits obviously that individual student. She'll be spending 2 years at a very high level school in Italy for her final 2 years of high school. She's been accepted. It's a private school. She's gotten a huge scholarship, and I think she attributes not only her experience in Madrid, but here in the United States to helping her get there. And so she plans to attend Harvard someday and be a doctor. So look out, world. Wow. I wanted to ask, so obviously we have challenges here in Madison with teacher retention and recruitment. Would love to hear how you guys are doing on that front.
It's tough. You really gotta take care of your folks. We're Ms. Rodriguez goes around each and every day. She's checking on her teachers each and every day, just like on her students, and really has an open door policy. Really, we really get involved. Our model has always been go to each class each and every day, wherever humanly possible, just to kind of, figure out how your students are doing overall, to make sure rigor is going on, to see if there's struggles, to see if there's problems, to be preemptive instead of reactive. So part of that culture also enables us to really stay in tune with the teachers. I've also been taking some notes and doing some reading on the Gen Z and the Gen Y and the millennials. And though there is some conflicting information out there and different author viewpoints, the current generation of teachers that we have, they want us to care about them. They want us to know who they are. They want us to know about them, their lives. They want us to invest in them. And so Ms. Rodriguez, I believe, stepped up after I left as principal. I think she took it up to the next level, frankly, with being better at forging those personal relationships. And we had a teacher who is brilliant, but she'd get up 2 hours early before school, but still come late every day. So Rosanna will call her every day and remind her, say, get in your car now, go to school. So, I don't know that I ever thought about doing that. So we try to pay them competitively. I would say we're somewhere in the it's too dangerous to say this. We're in the top tier of teacher pay, I would say, statewide. We, whatever top tier means. I'm not going to say 90th percentile because things are so volatile and fluid right now. But one thing that we have had the opportunity to do, and we're in a unique position to do it, is we can jump into our M&O if we have to, and if we don't know if something's coming, money's coming, or whatever else, we'll kind of get in there quick and try to find a way to compensate. And I realize that that's not necessarily always a mechanism that all schools have, but it's tough, and it'd be nice if we could. It'd be really nice if we could get over the bipartisanship and pick some funding, just some funding that rises everybody up, because there's a couple of plans out there. I'll support either one. Let's just give them more money. Sorry, that sounded political.
And then if I could just add, I'm so impressed, Ms. Rodriguez, you are at drop-off, you are there at pickup, you are helping students cross the street, you are at basketball games. I don't know if you've cloned yourself, but you're clearly very engaged with your student body and your school. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you both for giving me a tour of campus a few weeks back. I can say from experience, your students know both of you really well. You can see how you're connecting with your students and the faculty, and those soft skills even showed when I was given a tour and able to talk to some of those students, how engaged they were in the classroom, how well they could speak to a total stranger about their experience at the high school is really impressive. So thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to, I think there's a couple of things you guys have sold yourself short on in the presentation. One is, I was going over the material, you list that 54% of your student body is Hispanic. Is that still the case? That's what I was looking over, some of the propaganda you sent us beforehand.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so and so it's and when you you created the school to be a Title I school from the beginning. That makes that makes the efforts that you put in and the results that you get, all that much more impressive and important, because you're serving communities that really need it. And usually you tell us that your population is usually 70% or so more Madison students. Yeah. Again, I've said this before, but I think it's real important to repeat. We can't have a high school, but we have one. Because of the creative approach on both sides. and that was something the community really wanted, and you've delivered. I appreciate that. Then, that said, you've earned your A. Why don't you should put it in there and start using it? You've been an A school, you have the arts, you know, it's time to take that leap to the next level and become a STEAM school.
Indeed, yes. Yes.
No, but in any event, I would be interested in, if you talk a little bit about the support you provide for the Park Middle School and their students, because I think that's important. So there's something you didn't touch on, but particularly for our community and for the board, I think that's important.
Perfect, and I'd like Ms. Rodriguez to delve into that in a little bit more of a granular fashion. But before she does, I just want to say that, you know, the vision, the courage of this district to have a relationship with the charter school and bring a seamless K-12 experience to our, in a lot of cases, mutual stakeholders to meet the demand of the families, the community, and to do something that's not just, I mean, I don't know if you all know how unique this situation is. This is not, and actually, I've been contacted a few different times. I know Governing Board Holcomb, or Governing Board President Holcomb, that you have as well. Folks will call you up and they want to write an article until they figure out that everything is going so incredibly well that they never contact you again. So it's been kind of fun, and so excited about our new superintendent, Dr. Guerin, kind heart, strong intellect, just cares deeply. And I had the good fortune of being in a doc program with her back in the day, and just always stood out as someone who has a lot of love in her heart. So we're just thrilled to be here. And we're going to do some more partnership type things, it sounds like, in the future, more expansively in terms of things that we can do for students. Over to you. Yeah.
So as far as the support that we give, a lot of our students provide tutoring, particularly to the Park students. We've gone in and read to the preschoolers. I've gone in and read to each of the preschool class, and I'm hoping to get back in there again because they're awesome. We're going to be actually at Madison Camelview at their STEAM night. We're going to take our flight simulator and vector robotics, robots, and show the littles how they function and teach them to fly a plane. And so it's been awesome, and we're just looking for more opportunities. I know that we are also listed, or going to be part, if you guys get the 21st Century Grant, as a community partner. So I look forward to more opportunities for our students to get involved. Our students also work with the MAC program. We have students that get hired on every year. And so it's been awesome.
They're also sharing some of the engineering classes as well, too.
Yes. And we actually, this year, we have a Park 8th grader that has been with us all year. He did geometry in the first semester, and now he's doing Algebra 2 in the spring. And so he's taken math classes at the high school, at the high school all year. So it's nice that we can provide that if there are students that need that.
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to is we look at the advanced moving reach and looking at that program and how that's going to integrate. I think having Madison Highland Prep there is also going to make that that much better for all involved.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And related to that, I know you have another school over on the west side that you've opened. I was wondering how the schools sort of compare at sort of a high level.
Oh,
is it west side?
how the schools compare to other schools in the area?
No, you're.
Each other.
Oh, with each other?
Yeah.
So Madison Highland Prep is number 1.
Well, that was a given. I mean,
it got cut. Yeah, I actually, Madison Highland Prep is number 1 of the 3 schools thus far to date, and that's a leadership issue. Strong leadership versus slightly less strong leadership that we're working on. We have a new school in Avondale, and it's in its first year, Highland Prep West, and we have just an amazing new principal over there who hopefully won't make Miss Rodriguez look bad, but she's really has an amazing, strong freshman class, and just if anyone ever wants to come and see it, love to meet you out there and take you on a tour, or, something like that. So the schools are doing great. The highest Title I school that we have is MHP. The other two schools are at around 60%, and then again, MHP is a little bit more than that. But yeah, earlier, and I don't want to keep everybody here all night, but we are Title I educators. Those are the only kids that we want to teach. That's just our specialization. That's just what speaks to us. That's the only thing I've ever done in my whole career in education is Title I, because that's where someone once told me it's better to be deserving of the trophy and not to have it than to have it and not be deserving of it. And when you're in your senior years and you're kicking back and you're decrepit and trying to just stay together and you're looking back on what you did, it's going to be the growth you remember more than anything else. So thank you.
No, I appreciate that sentiment, except you looked at me the whole time we were talking about being old and decrepit. But anyway, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Again, thank you. It's a great partnership. We look forward to keeping it going for a long, long time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
That brings us next to the IBN and Budget Advisory Committee recommendations. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, governing board members, cabinet, and guests. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Lomeli and Ms. Garvey to share both the interest-based negotiations and budget advisory recommendations. And I just want to express my gratitude for all the hours of work that they put into this process. Their thoughtful, careful consideration and inclusivity with our stakeholders leads to such solid recommendations and helps just strengthen our district as we move forward. So thank you both.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin and cabinet. Dr. Lomeli and I are also just really delighted to be able to share this the work of both of our committees, the Budget Advisory Committee and the IBN Committee, the Interest-Based Negotiations Committee, with you tonight, as both committees have developed budget recommendations, which will go on to Dr. Guerin, who then puts her recommendations forward to you for approval. So we're going to look at the projected budget, what we know so far, what the picture is, and then Dr. Lomeli will go into the discussion and recommendations priorities from IBN, and then I will finish with budget advisory discussions and recommendations. So this year, in particular, we really focus on what is our future.
Ms. Garvey, I apologize for interrupting, but for those who are listening, can you explain who IBN and who Budget Advisory are?
Certainly. So
Thank you.
the Budget Advisory Committee is a committee that is comprised of parents, community members, staff members, and within that staff, all employee groups are represented, and every school is represented, so that there's cross-representation. We are a group that looks at the Maintenance and Operation Fund, not district totality in funds, and we make recommendations to the superintendent. The interest-based negotiation team is comprised of 3 different groups of people. It's certified staff, classified staff, and administrative staff, each of which have 4 members, and you'll see who they are coming up in a slide. And as the name implies, they make decisions based on the interest of the entire district, not necessarily on the interest of just their group. So they tell stories, they develop options, and then they come up with their recommendations. So with that, both groups look at this information as they meet and as they develop recommendations. So when we look at our budget, we have to not only keep in mind what we have, but what we may not have in the future. So we keep our eye always on being financially sound. And part of that requires us to look at funding that is not permanent. So at the moment, and all of this can change, but there's results-based funding that has an end date. It's an annual appropriation by the legislature, which is why this has a date that's every year we look at it. But the results-based funding are funds that we do get based on the achievement levels of our schools. Madison has $651,000, and they fund kinder paraprofessionals and interventionists. Some of these funds can fund other things like supplies. It's not mentioned here because those might not necessarily need to get absorbed into the budget, but we need to know what positions are out there and what we really need. So the bulk of this money, and in results-based funding, it is 100% in these positions. We have safety grants. A few years ago, the first round of safety grants went out, and Madison received 2 counselors out of that. And then since then, there has been another allocation, and Madison has received either a counselor or social worker for every school. So we have 8 of those positions, both of those grants, and this June. We have reapplied because the grant has reopened, and we've reapplied for these positions again, and we will find out later this spring what we qualify for, what we get awarded. But we're keeping it on our horizon to look at. Then we have ESSER 3, which were federal funds that were infused into schools due to COVID and the pandemic. And of that, really, we've kept a minimal amount of salaries in their positions that might need to be absorbed, but we do have a lead social worker and an instructional coach paid out of those funds. You can see that's about $200,000 in those funds. We also keep our, and that does end in September of '24. So we have one more year, but it's just giving everybody, just keep this in mind, this is coming up. So it just helps us as we budget for long-term planning. Then we look at our Prop 123, which were additional monies distributed to school districts based on the capital lawsuit. And it does have an end date of June of '26. A little bit in the future, of course, but we still want to keep our eye on that. And those funds currently are $350,000, and they just go to overall maintenance and operation fund. Okay. What we do know, and as you saw back, I believe in February when we looked, what we do know is that we will receive 2% in inflation this year. So that is the only thing at this point in time that we know. That amounts to $95.50 increase to the weighted student count of every student. And that looks like, when you look at it, that increases our base support level $661,000. In addition to that, well, I glossed over the first one. Our ADM did go down 29, but that has already been accounted for in our budget since it rolls forward from this year to next year. So it's nothing that we need to address right now. We are still thinking that for next year, our enrollment will be the same as it is this year. So all the projections are based on maintaining current enrollment. The other thing that we do have is how much of our budget balance can we look at perhaps, and can we bring over to expend? And we always want to look at this. We always want to be careful about this. We would like to really have about 3 to 4% set aside for what we would call a rainy day fund. But looking at that, we have some funds in excess of what that rainy day fund would be, and it is approximately $749,000. So when we look at the inflation and that budget balance carry forward that we can now spend, we have about $1.4 million that we can look at to spend for next year or to allocate to items for next year. After we look at what we have to allocate, then we look at what are our budget commitments? What are things that we know that we're going to have to fund out of this $1.4 million? The first thing that we always look at, staffing makes up 85% of our budget. So we look at our roll-up for next year. How many more teachers will we need when we apply student-teacher ratio and go from second to third or fourth to fifth? And what does that look like? When we looked at our roll-up this year, it looks like we will need 11 additional staff for next year. 4 of those are actually due to roll up because of student-teacher ratio, but due to the English language learner requirements, we do need 3 additional FTE to meet the requirements that we have to. And then we are also looking at 4 resource teachers next year as we are implementing a model where our special ed students, where possible, can be mainstreamed, but that does require some extra supports. and that would be those 4 resource teachers. So those 11 teachers altogether are $858,000. That does include any employer-related benefits on those positions. We looked, we received our first pass, and I'm going to say first pass at medical insurance. And we had originally projected 10%. It has gone up 4%. That's a celebration, but I feel it's not a celebration enough. So we are in conversations with ASBATE, our insurance company, to see if we've requested a rate reduction from the 4%. So we will see what happens. I was hoping to have news by today, but I guess it'll be the next presentation. But at 4%, it's an increase of $137,600. And then just more of a notice, a little bit than anything, but state retirement is going up a little bit from 12.17% to 12.29%, which is approximately $17,700. So when you look at those increase in projected expenditures, it comes to $1.2 million, leaving us with a balance of $396,700. So when IBN and Budget Advisory start really honing in on what do we think we could allocate this to, that's the amount that we are actually looking at. So you will see with our recommendations, we have recommendations for that, but then once the legislature wraps up and we know exactly what our budget is going to look like, we both have recommendations if budget above that 2% becomes available, what we would like to recommend. And along with this, before Dr. Lumley jumps in, just a few words on the parity study, because I know we've received so many questions. But at the board's direction, we did a parity study this year. And in that parity study, we really wanted to see where are we in comparison with 10 surrounding districts. We put in a couple of unified that might not be surrounding, but ones that we've heard recently that we're losing people to. So we thought we need to include Mesa and Paradise Valley, even though they were unified. And then you'll see the last bullet down there is industry. In the parity study, they did compare to open jobs within the Phoenix job market. That it's mostly on this one. It is some related service provider parities, but a lot of it is for our classified jobs. For example, custodial staff somewhere or a food service worker. You know, how do theirs, because that is who we are competing with. So when we looked at some classified jobs, we also put in there, what do we look like according to the industry? The goals of the parity study, we saw when we looked at it that it would be nice, and our ultimate goal, of course, if you're comparing your set, you know, you're looking at 12, you would like to be in the top 3. That would be our ultimate goal. But looking at it, we realized that we need to, for this part, we need to get to median of the comparison districts in the industry. Another goal was to give a minimum 2% salary increase for every employee. And then we wanted to make sure that when we developed a new placement schedule, and for anybody that is in the audience or watching, you know that our salary schedule is a range, but please know that behind that range is actually a placement schedule that HR uses to ensure that if you come in with 3 years of experience, you are getting what another person with 3 years of experience gets. So it's not just willy-nilly. There is something behind it. So what we wanted to make sure when we created new salary schedules is that anybody coming in with up to 15 years of experience would not be amount that would be less than this year's placement schedule. So because what happens is, and you see it as we study the salary schedules, when you increase base salary between the steps, the amount that you get for years of experience actually is less because the money has to come from somewhere. So when you're putting in less money between steps, you have to make sure that what point do you cross where this year's schedule would be higher. So we made sure that you could come in with 15 years and it wouldn't be less. So that factored into the salary schedules, or the placement schedules. I need not to say salary schedules. A goal was to have the teacher starting salary at $50,000 plus and the hourly starting salary at $15 an hour plus. So with that, and there's a slide for every pay group. You'll be able to see them all, but just to explain the first one. The first thing was to find out where was median for all of our different jobs out there. With certified, we found out what is median for a bachelor's, what is median for a master's, and what is median for a doctorate. Yes, we have steps in between bachelor and master's, like BA plus 18. Truly, all districts are different in what increments, so we kept it to, let's figure out where we need to be, and then we can do the placement in between. So you can see here the median for bachelor's is $47,272. That is $2,218 more than Madison. And then you can see the master's was $2,900 more, and the doctorate was $1,300 more. So in trying to increase base salary too, we looked at what are some other districts doing and how do they get it and how are they able to have such high starting salaries. And pay for performance amount that teachers receive seems to be in some places redirected into base salary, not to do away with pay for performance, but you have a smaller pay for performance amount. And actually there is a benefit to that. Not only does it raise, but then raise base salary, but certified staff will get an annual increase on that amount every year, where otherwise the amount has remained unchanged for years. So in the future, after next year, if that's built in, they would see that increase. I can tell you that both the IBN group and Budget Advisory had conversation about this and were in full support of transferring $2,400 of the $3,400. So that still does leave a $1,000 pay for performance out there for certified staff. Once you add that $2,400 to those medians, comes up with a new base pay. So now our bachelor's base pay would be at $49,672. So that's median plus the $2,400. We are proposing that the bachelor's will have a base pay of $51,000, that master's will have a base pay of $54,000, and doctorate at $58,000. So we've actually been able to go beyond just what the median is. And median is only median for this year. And so that's the other thing we know. So we were trying to get a little bit ahead of that. And then we kept how you move between lanes, and the lanes are education levels, the same as they are this year. We're trying to keep some structure similar to what we have because it's a lot of change to start with for people. So this kind of helps at least the structure remain. So if you're moving from lane 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, so bachelor's all the way to master's, it's a $1,500 increase in the steps between, which is BA to plus 18 to master's. And then after master's, there's an MA plus 24 perhaps?
I think so.
Oh dear, it might be 18, I'm sorry. And those all the way up to doctorate receive 1,000. Then when you get to the doctorate, MA plus 36, the next step is the doctorate, which you would get the additional 1,000. And then each year of experience is at $612 on the new placement schedule. What we do is we compare everybody's current placement with their total number of years of experience that they were credited, plus what they've worked here, and we place them on that schedule to make sure that they are not making less than what somebody new coming in would be making at that same step. And we placed them and we looked at what is that amount. So for example, if a teacher was brand new and they're currently making $45,000, which is our current base salary for a teacher, making $45,000, and the new base is $51,000, they get the difference of that to bring it up. That's only for people at base, and that's really important because as you move through the schedule, the amounts change. So it's not a flat amount for everybody. It depends on what you were given when you came in, where you're placed. And so then we looked at those amounts, and if that parity amount was not at least 2%, then we put in to make sure that an employee would get at least a 2%. So it's greater of parity or 2%. So if parity, you receive 5%, then you get your parity amount. If parity gave you 1.5%, you receive 2%. Next slide. The next schedule is a very interesting schedule. It was the OTPT social worker, counselor, and speech language pathologist. when we looked at the median, we were under median by $17,662 if you had a bachelor's. If you moved to master's, we were a little over 3,800 below. The interesting thing is at the doctorate level, we were actually above median by $434. So it's interesting to see patterns. It's interesting to see how years of service affected versus other districts. And you definitely start to see these patterns roll out. So it is being proposed that the bachelor goes up to the median at $62,889. The master's goes up a little bit more than that at the $65,889, and then the doctorate even a little bit more, preserving those same increases that we see between the lanes for education. And in some points, that doctorate probably had to go up a little bit too, because it took that amount at the $800 between each steps to make sure that 15 years, it had to be increased to make sure that 15 years was not making more on last year's schedule. Next slide. And then we have the school psychologist, and the same thing rolls out, and you can see all we're under to raise it up to median. And there are 3 columns within the school psychologist, and movement between those columns is $4,300, but each column will go up a minimum of $5,000 with $1,200 for experience. The LPN RN schedule, the LPNs actually were a little bit over median, and then you can see the rest of the groups were under median as it needed to be added. It is being proposed, though, that LPNs start at $41,000. And again, this is to maintain structure and so that we don't have huge gaps between an LPN and the next level. And then the same lane movements for education are the same as there this year, and each year of experience is worth $600. Okay, the classified group. This was an interesting group because we have 59 different positions. So we looked at each of those positions and we found out what each needed to go to median, and that kind of came up with a new starting pay for every position. And then looking at that, grouping those within 50-cent increments, okay? So the lowest, the range of increase to bring it to median, some were right at median. So it was a 2-cent increase, but it went all the way up to $3.44 an hour to bring some positions to median. So the first group was up to $14.99, but knowing that we wanted to start at least at 15, we looked and we could start at $15.50, so anybody up to $14.99 would get bumped to the $15.50. And there are 38-cent increments, which is about $800 if you annualize it, between the grades. And you can see for yourself here, I don't need to read it, but there are a lot of, the increase for each grade level is significant. So 6 is currently our lowest grade now, and it's $1.65 an hour that it increased. But again, the thing I need to say is that grade 6 pretty much is what grade 6 is today, but all the rest, it reshuffled the jobs a little bit. And so some categories now that might fall under grade 9 were actually, grade 9 now is all 12 and 13s before. But to kind of, we are going to look at restructuring. It's odd to start at 6. So we're looking now at just restructuring and perhaps going to letters A, B, C, and D, and then showing everybody where they fall. So this is, and then each year of experience is 1.5%. And Dr. Lomeley and I will be doing information sessions for all groups, because we're sure that there will be a lot of questions. And then the exempt schedule, there are 24 positions on that. And we were off median anywhere between $381 to $13,663. And you could just see again, you see where the breaking points are when you look at the salaries, and it really did kind of fall out in $2,000 increments. We currently have 4 exempt steps, but what it showed is that we really need to have 5. Between 2 and 3, there was a significant gap in starting pay, and we needed one in between those 2. So that fell out, and you can see the amounts actually are the new E2, whoever fell in there, our current amount is actually okay. And then the E4s, which now look like E5s, the median amount seemed to be in line, but again, positions reshuffled. And then 1.5% between each year of experience. ECP instructors, looked at that, you can see that they were significantly below median. And so there was also a proposal, because when we looked at different out there are some that don't have any education, to adding a separate step for those with a 2-year associate, which we didn't currently have, but adding that because there's obviously time associated with that and knowledge going all the way up. So you can see they have gone up significantly from where they were. And then $500 between each step. And the last group was administrative, and at this point, there have not been any changes made to administrative schedules. These are, just by nature of the job, very different, very structured, different in other districts, so we do need to continue the study on this into next year before we feel more comfortable with the recommendation. So to capture all of that in a snapshot, you can see by group that we just presented the number of staff members that would receive parity and the number that stay at the current salary and the percentage receiving parity. So you can see that there is a low and exempt of 42.3% of staff members receiving parity, all the way up to a high of the OTPT social workers. At 87.9% of the employees there will get some, parity is greater than the 2%. So it's quite a number of employees that will be impacted. 531 qualified for parity. When we look at the cost, it's broken out by fund, and to do this it would cost $1,279,000 out of M&O, and down there on the bottom is a little chart because we did set aside $1,016,000. So that leaves us having to find $263,000 from somewhere, which, if you remember that balance of $396,000 that we had, that leaves $132,000 now for both of our groups to discuss. And I think I have one more slide before I turn it over to Dr. Lomley, sorry. Is classified pay for performance has been a topic in IBN for at least 15 years. And it keeps coming back, and the classified staff have asked for something. Dr. Lomley and I had met, we formed a committee, we met with several different representatives from the classified staff and came up with a different level up. We currently have one, but a different one that is aligned to our strategic plan. You can see each one of our strategic plan goal areas are represented, and what classified staff can do to help meet goals in those areas. You'll see the boxes in each goal area. So there are 5 within each one. So there are 40 example opportunities. And if somebody would complete 6 of those, they would receive $100, and you can see the scale up to a maximum of 500. So they don't need to do all of them. It's completely optional, but it is a way to reward employees for the extra work and what they're doing to help as we advance our strategic plan. And that plan went forward to both groups. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lomley.
Thank you, Lori. Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, I'm going to go over now our IBN recommendations, but I really want to take a moment to acknowledge our IBN teams, who are, many are here late tonight. We had on the certified team, Anna Andrews, Casey Bilger, Hannah Milne, Ryan Keller. Our classified team included Patrick McFadden, Deborah Wheeler, Matt Bloom, Jose Almeida. In our administrator team, included Barb Marshall, Priscilla Gossett, Kristen Soulsby, and myself. The topics that IBM brought forward, each group brought topics forward, and the topics, we brought forward topics that represented our staff and our team. You see here the list. And this is not, this order of this list is really the order that we brought the topics up. So there's no real significance to this order. It's just us listing the topics. We spent a great deal of time going through each of the topics, understanding the stories, coming up with options, and discussing the recommendations. And so the next slide really represents the priorities that IBN is moving forward. And this is significant because we do feel strongly about salary and making sure that we do increase salaries for all employees. But really we did discuss thoroughly the parity work that was done, and that was presented to the group. So that is supported. We also did speak to the restructuring of performance pay for teachers in order to be able to increase the salaries for teachers. But I'm going to go ahead and go through each of the topics because I know that's important, because these are the topics that were brought up by our colleagues. So as I mentioned, the parity study with the minimum of 2% is recommended. We would love to see, because some of these topics when we were discussing, we did not have, and we still don't know exactly what our funding will be, but we really want to hope that we could add 3%, additional 3% to salaries. And I did mention the move all but $1,000 of performance pay into the certified base pay. In terms of benefits, employees really appreciate what Madison does for benefits. And so the recommendation is to keep our current benefits and to continue our current HSA contributions. So there's no change in that. Retention stipend. Employees really appreciate a retention stipend. We're able to issue retention stipends in the past, and anything that employees can get is really appreciated. The only recommendation is that when payout comes, hopefully we could lump it all together so that it feels a little bit more significant. And we really wanted to stress that we realize these retention stipends come from ESSER, and we know that ESSER money is not forever, so just to communicate that with staff. Substitute coverage came up as an issue, and a recommendation from IBN is to raise base pay based on a study of how we compare to our comparative districts, and that's something that we're still working on. And also the recommendation is to add guest teachers to each of our elementary schools. And that's permanent guest teachers, and we do have those at our middle schools. We have talked about the classified performance pay, which has come up for several years, and we're really excited about the work that's been done on the classified level up, and the IBN team really supports this, and the recommendation is to fund the newly developed classified level up. Class size came up as an issue. A recommendation from IBN is to hire a classroom aide per campus, and this is in addition to what we already have to be able to support at each of the schools. Recommendation for increasing longevity pay. Our staff really appreciates the acknowledgement of staying in Madison, and currently our longevity stipend starts at 5 years, and IBN really believes that if we could add something for 3 to 4 years, that might help retain some of our staff, or at least acknowledge how much we appreciate everybody. So the recommendation is to add another 3 to 4 year level of $100. Classified paid holidays, the recommendation is to add an additional day to our classified staff. Currently, there are break periods where if they do not work, they're not paid, and that creates a hardship for some of our classified staff. So adding another day kind of helps to bridge that, and hopefully will help with our retention. Extra duty pay, our IBN team looked at this and what we pay our staff for extra duties. And in our research, we realized that we have not updated our extra duty pay in a very long time. I don't know the exact number of years, but I think way before my colleagues here, but in any event, it needs some attention, and so the recommendation is to increase the pay, and it's listed here. And part of the recommendation is to continue to review this pay on a regular basis. School-wide behavior is an item, a topic item that came up. We had lots of discussions about this, and a recommendation from IBN is to add an additional behavior intervention specialist so that there is support for the elementary schools, in addition to our current behavior intervention specialist, so that we would have one for elementary and one for middle school. In addition, to assist with our school-wide behavior, is to continue the PBIS allocation that was started last year and continue it for at least another year, so that we can continue to do that PBIS work. And then reference to a previous item is hire another classroom aide to assist with our behavior topic that came up. Training and professional development for classified staff. In this topic, it really looks to our HR department to help with working with our supervisors to create checklists for expectations for our departments and create training guides. Part of the issue is that when we have turnover in our classified staff, having some of these resources available will help our classified staff get off to a good start in their new position, and hopefully retain folks, because it does create a hardship and additional work for staff when we have so much turnover. Interventionists for student support, and this is academic. This, we talked about tabling this topic until we were able to gather some more information and study this a little bit further. So the recommendation is to leave it as is today. Another topic is to add professionals for our resource teachers, and our recommendation is to not do anything at this time, but leave it as is. Another topic is to look at academic coaches. One recommendation is to add a special education coach, and our work is mostly with M&O funds that are available to us, but in this regard, we learned that there is funding available through our spread grant, so the recommendation is to add a special education coach. Also, a recommendation is to increase our social studies coach that is currently half-time to a 1.0. And also, recommendation is to research additional funding resources to support in this area. This topic is to create a stipend for a 504 coordinator. This stipend, we suggest creating a stipend of $1,200 to provide additional support, to create some qualification guidelines for a 504 coordinator. and really provide some training, because that's such an important topic, but definitely providing some support, some financial support in that regard. In regard to the topic of a lead nurse, currently we have a lead nurse that serves as a school nurse, and also has a small stipend to cover work that's done in the summertime, as well as to lead our nursing team, provide training. And IBN is recommending that we add a half-time health associate to support that nurse at that campus, so that they have half of the day to focus on lead nurse activities. IBN is also recommending, in terms of adding education consideration to our salary schedule for our exempt employees. We currently do not do that, but we would like to add definitely a stipend for doctorate like we do for other schedules, and also review compensation for additional education. I mentioned this previous, but we did discuss the certified teacher pay for performance allocation, and this was one of our high priorities, and the recommendation is to move all but $1,000 of our pay for performance to our base pay in order to increase teacher base pay. And wanted to stress that we need to communicate this to our staff, these changes to our staff. The topic of student childcare on staff workdays came up. We did talk about that a great deal, and we recognize that we utilize those workdays for professional development, and it's difficult for us to use our own staff to cover any kind of childcare. So recommendation is to explore any vendor camps that could support in that area, and at this time to leave as is. And I want to thank again our IBN teams that really put a lot of time and energy and thought into these recommendations, and our discussions were really rich, sometimes long, but they were really good discussions, and we all came to, as an entire team, conclusion and recommendations that everyone could support. That's our classified, certified, and administrative team. So I just want to thank everybody for all of your contributions.
And so then that brings us to the budget advisory team members. And thank you. And as you can see, it is, like I mentioned, a cross-section of people throughout the district. And ours differs just a little in that we do include parents and community members. We also do have an IBN liaison who goes between groups. So Matt Bloom has been hearing each side. He brings things to us, and back and forth. Let's IBN know what budget advisory is talking about. It's just a really good way. In addition, we have joint meetings with both groups, and it's just a really good way to, what are you talking about? Is it something perhaps that we should be looking at? So you may see a lot of the same things that IBN recommended are in budget advisory, and it is because of that really good, robust conversation between both groups. And so I too cannot thank my team members enough. They just were outstanding this year, and the conversation was just so rich. And I just feel like we all learn even more about Madison just through these conversations. And so I just thank you all if you're out there watching. Thank you so much for everything that you contributed to our meetings. And the next slide are the recommendations that our group came up with. And a little bit of difference in the groups. Again, I said, budget advisory does not talk about anything other than maintenance and operations. And the other thing that IBN does talk about are working conditions. So there's just a slight difference. So focusing in on the budget items, our group 2 is recommending parity, a greater of the parity amount or 2%, knowing that we had that $396,000 and we showed if we used 120 or 263,000. That left us with a little bit of money, so we of course put that to good use and are recommending an additional 0.4% salary increase moving forward. Like IBN, there was a big focus on staff salaries, so you'll see it come up. And then if additional funds become available, it is to increase another 0.6, bringing it up to a 3% increase, salary increase for all staff. And then you can see the items, the classified level up, and these are in our recommended list, priority list. You'll see Dean of Students, maybe not a good title, maybe it's a TOA, but assigned to help with doing Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention coaching, to do PBIS work, to really help with the student behavior that Dr. Lomely talked about. Our group was recommending 3 to be spread throughout the district at high-need schools. The behavior interventionist is the same. At this point, after those, our group would like to look at an additional salary increase. The permanent subs, same. They are provided at the middle schools, but to now include them at elementaries and MTA. Increasing that social studies coach to full-time. Again, the stipend for 504s, the health associate. Where IBN had 1 additional holiday, our group just said, well, let's just put it out there and say, how about up to 3 at discretion of how much money may or may not be there. And then the class size for the full-time instructional aide per school. And you'll see the last bullet here just says full support. Our group fully supports adding a special ed coach to be paid through grant funds. We just wanted to reach out to our counterpart group and say, we love your idea and we fully support it. And there's just one little note here on the bottom is our group wanted to stress to the social workers, the counselors, and the kindergarten pairs how important we feel you are to the district, and we would not like any of this to happen before we make sure that you all have a position. So that is there, and those are our recommendations.
Mr. Chair, as a point of order, since all of this has now been provided in a public meeting, is there a possibility we can get our notes back? It would be really valuable to me, since it is exactly the same thing we presented in a public meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple quick comments if we're starting those.
Sure. Go ahead, and you may start, Ms. Grisham.
Thank you. Thank you both for all this and all the groups for all your hard work. These are great recommendations. I'm sure we're going to get all the funding we could possibly need for all of these things. Just putting that out there. And I do want to point out that, there's maybe some you might read somewhere that, districts don't put their teacher salaries first. We always put our teacher salary first, which has been evident every time we do this. The only thing I had was that I would like to see on the budget advisory team is maybe 1 or 2 more community members or parents. It seems like we're a little light on those, so I would appreciate maybe do like a middle school parent and an elementary parent or something like that, but that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions, comment? Ms. Kazi?
So I'll comment without my notes, which is really hard.
Well, wait. She's searching
No,
for them.
No,
Ms.
it's
Thompson,
8
you want-
o'clock. I'm not doing that to us or the people in the audience. First of all, I just want to say that this parity study, wow. I mean, I don't have any full appreciation for the amount of work that went into it, but I know it was not just on the part of our consultant, but on the part of our staff was monumental. And we have been talking about this for a very long time. So it is so wonderful to see the numbers and to see the targets that we want to get to, and then to see that we have the revenue to get there. I am so excited. We should clap. Because that is a big deal. We have been talking about this for a while. So thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for, ensuring that we had the money set aside from ESTRA to make it all possible. I'll stop on that front. Also want to thank all the participants in the IBN process as well as the Budget Advisory Committee. I just want to share a few of the comments that I have shared. I would love to see us continue to just support our current social studies teachers, instead of moving to a full-time coach, just to see how we can support them in sharing the exemplary work they're doing. We know we have exemplars out there. Let's use them to share with the rest of our social studies teachers. Want to also reiterate on the 504 suggestion that we look at making sure that not only is obviously that stipend going to an additional person, but also that they're getting some significant training. And then on the front end that we're doing, I know we have a 504 information on our website. I will definitely take some time to look at it, make it a little bit more accessible, but also I think we could just make this process so much easier if we can just share really upfront what is a, what is this, what does a sample 504 plan look like? What are some of the accommodations that are available? Because I know as a parent, I felt like I had to search for that, and I shouldn't have had to do that. And I think it would make the process work be more beneficial and easier for not just the parent and that student, but for the administrators and the teachers. Let's make this process easier, and also just have a conversation as well up front about how we are using, our teachers are generally using best practices anyways in the classroom, and then that recognition, and that we're just providing those additional enhancements, but so much of that is already happening. I think that's so beneficial when we can share that up front to parents. It helps allay some of their concerns. Obviously, as this board has consistently, as Board Member Gresham stated, supported increasing teacher salaries. The parity study makes some great progress. We would love to see, based on what happens with the budget, obviously, really early in the process, since we have for the first time in a while, a very split sense of control, but would definitely support increases for staff salaries. We understand that our teachers are dealing with inflationary challenges, as well as the fact that for so many years we're not compensated properly. So thank you again for all your work, and I feel like this is, of all the years that I've been on the board, obviously, budget would be nice, we always wait, but I feel like we're in a very good shape as far as really clear, solid guidance on where we go with just so much good information. So I just feel very confident that our process is in such a great position already, and it's only March. Yay. Yay us.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to reiterate some things that Ms. Kazi said. This being my first time on this side of the podium, watching this process, it is so incredible to have all of this public input, to have this level of definition of what the community priorities are. We should be, and I think we are very appreciative of that work, but the community should feel very assured that there is a tremendous amount of input that goes into the recommendations that are brought forward to the superintendent and then ultimately the board. Secondarily, on the parity study, wow, like you said, I know what a huge lift those are. I like that we're even still thinking about other areas we could dig deeper in to make sure that we're getting out of compression problems, even if they weren't addressed by the parity study, and I deeply appreciate that. I think we're on a good track, even though we don't know what the final numbers are going to be like yet. This is a great structure to be able to react to when we do have the numbers. So thank you for all of your work, and thank you for all of those who volunteered on the committees, their work as well.
Ms. Spear?
I don't have anything unique that my colleagues have not already said. I support both IBN as well as the Budget Advisory. Thank you so much for all of your work. I know it is a lot of work, and it is so important for us as board members to get that feedback. So I just have gratitude. That's all. Thank you.
Before I prepared all this, the parity study, the work that's gone into it, not just the work, but the care and consideration about, that's something I've been blown away with every year that I've been involved with this process, is that this is not just numbers, it's not just money, it's people. And the consideration of people and culture and condition, That's huge. The money is just a tool. What we're really trying to do is to serve the people, to preserve the culture. That's the goal. And the money is the tool. And so we're figuring out, so it's not, the focus is not on the money as an end goal. It's a focus on how can we best use that tool to get these goals? And that is really clearly reflected in all of this. That said, I actually have a technical question. Can you go back to slide 7, please? I didn't want to interrupt your flow because, Lori, I know you were on a roll. So we can go back to slide 7. And it may be just that it's late and and where, oh, you had it there for a moment. There, slide 7. And maybe I'm just doing math or I'm missing. 1,410,000 minus 112,19,700 doesn't add up to the.
You're so good. That's what it was before the change in the medical insurance. So if I change the medical insurance amount, darn, I changed it on a slide. I had so many presentations going. I didn't get back to this one.
Yeah, I'm used to interrogating accountants, which is so much fun. But so is the 396,700 is correct. The 1219,700 is not.
Is not.
Okay. So I finally got one. I finally got you. It's been 19 years.
Well, if I may jump in.
No, I just wanted to make sure.
You're going to find out how imperfect I am in a minute.
Oh no. Oh no! I never want to go back and read my things, and I do presentations and say, yeah,
Well, I just have this sinking feeling because on the screen that was up prior to this one, my committee members, I swear I typed them, I recounted, I saved, and I'm missing 4 of my committee members, so they get a special shout out. And so I do have a community member who is Chris Rusin. I have a parent, Brian Fulton. I have a SPED teacher, Nadia Farias, and I have one more on here. Oh my gosh. It's going to come to me in a moment. Oh, Katie Clark. Katie Clark joined our committee this year too, so thank you with gratitude to you, and I'm sorry your names weren't on the list. I will update the list and put it in the weekly update.
No, it's good. It's good to see that you're not perfect. Is any event, but that's fun. One thing I wanted to also point out in relation to this is that we get the priorities and that we take this very seriously, and particularly the input we get back. But as we go through this process, we also see that as we get closer to the budget and what the real numbers are and what it is, this will change. I mean, because it continues to be a balancing, and when we look at it, is looking at, again, the people and the culture and the end goals and the money as a tool. You go back and keep reviewing this, okay, we have this much money or we don't have this much money. Some of these things may adjust, actually something, you may get more bang for your buck and putting something else depending on what you have available. And that's why the analysis and the work that's been done is so important, is really looking and said, okay, putting it with numbers, but then realizing, okay, we need to look at this holistically as the whole thing together. So with that, any other comments or questions from the board? For those who are in the audience, thank you for what you did. All right. With that, we will go on to discussion of future meetings. Our next meeting starts in about 10 minutes, right?
Oh, no, it does not. But the 2 weeks will go by very, very quickly. It's a busy time of year. So when we meet again, it will be April. We will have another executive session to talk about my recommendations for the final budget. And then we will have a board policy second read. And we will have some more administrative introductions. And this is going to be a quick turnaround. We're doing the community forums next week for the 2 additional schools and of Simus and Camelview, and then we're going to bring the recommendations on this Tuesday because we need to get moving on that. we are going to have a legislative presentation by Dr. Osborne, and who knows, we might even have a budget by then. There is some rumblings, so I can be glass half full, I can be optimistic about the whole thing, but wouldn't it be interesting to have a budget recommendation with an actual budget? One can hope. Then we will talk a little bit about the MAC update, our wait list, our strategies, what our thoughts are, what we can do to pilot and work on recruitment and intention. That department is working so hard and has been understaffed for so long. And so I just am so grateful for the quality of care that they provide and understanding in this challenging job market. So thank you to that team, and we'll provide an update on that. We will also talk about our district-supported health insurance plan, so we'll see if there's any changes in that. That's very important. For action items, we have a lot going on with superintendent budget recommendations, and then we will have salary schedules for admin, their contracts, the extra duty days, classified contracts, elective course approvals, and sometimes that's under consent, but it's with COVID and some new board members, we felt like it would, and of course I'm new as well, that we thought that should be an action item. And we will be asking approval for a field trip as well out of county. And then it will already be May where you'll start to see some recognitions and all of that. We have added a study session in June on a board meeting day, hoping that we would all be in town because of the board meeting, and so I will share more information about that. But we will, this quarter is going to fly by. Any questions?
Any comments or questions from the board? Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give this one to Miss Kazi. She hasn't been getting anything. And then Miss Spear, Miss Thompson, your name is already all over the minutes. So it's been moved and seconded. Please vote. Yeah. We are adjourned.